And in the audience today, we have teachers and administrators and students. We're going to hear from people over Skype around the United States. And I think by the end of this day, if you are not inspired about new roles of kids and kids making a contribution and teachers who have learned how to empower children, you better check your pulse. It's going to be a heart-throbbing kind of day. With that, my name's Alan November. I'm senior partner at November Learning, and it is my honor to be able to host this day and engage with folks who are really making a difference. Around the United States, there are pioneering teachers who have sorted out that we have probably underestimated students' ability to make a contribution to the world. Most of what we do with technology, in my opinion, as I travel, is we're bolting technology on top of the existing culture of teaching and learning. And I sometimes call that the $1,000 pencil, where kids actually hand in paper with a computer that we could have done without a computer. But what we're going to see today are kids solving problems that are more uniquely qualified for a time when we have these powerful tools we can place in the hands of kids. And I think what we're going to find out is that we can actually design classrooms where students work harder than their teachers. So we got 3 questions today that I think are really, really important. One is, who owns the learning? And it's my opinion that when the learner owns the learning, they take more responsibility, more work, more quality, more effort, more collaboration. So the essential question is, who owns the learning? Another question about today that emerges out of this work is, are students creating a legacy, creating work that can be used by other people? And we're going to find out the answer is yes. From when kids are quite young all the way through high school, we have enough tools today, design tools and publishing tools, tools of creativity, that students can actually create content, for example, math tutorials, to help other kids learn. And in fact, if you talk to kids and you ask them, what's your preference for learning something when you don't quite understand it, many students will say that they prefer to have a kid explain it because the kid knows how to explain it in a kid's way. So it's just this fascinating opportunity of kids creating a legacy. The other idea we're going to see some of today is this concept called the flipped classroom, where what used to be homework becomes classwork, and what used to be classwork becomes homework. And in fact, this fits into some emerging research about how the brain learns, that the brain really needs immediate feedback. Or, unfortunately, if some kids are doing homework without immediate feedback and they make a mistake, the brain actually records the error. And very often, even if teachers correct the homework and students study those corrections, they might make the same mistake on a test they made in homework. And so what you're going to hear of today, in part, is the opportunity of having homework become classwork with immediate feedback from teachers. Now that takes a bit of a stretch of reorganizing your classroom, and in fact, you're going to hear from a lot of these stories today that it's really risk-taking teachers who've thought about these things and have read the research in the brain and understand that we've underestimated the role of kids. The other opportunity we're going to see today is kids going out in their own community and recording, helping local people on elections with polling, recording the history of their own community, and creating a legacy that way. So it's a phenomenally exciting time. Probably the biggest change that describes most of what we're going to see today is a shift of control. That what used to be more teacher-directed is now more student-empowered directed. And it's almost easier to teach somebody how to use a new computer application than it is to teach them to shift control. So this is not easy. I don't want to pretend that this is easy. As exciting as it is, if you're watching this as an educator, one of the questions you may want to be asking yourself is, how much control do I have now that I can shift to my students? Finally, one of the things we're going to see today are classrooms that have sorted out that there's lots of jobs kids can have that adds value. Kids who are taking notes together, kids who are building a search engine together, kids who are documenting their learning, kids who are doing curriculum research for their teacher, that there's just a tremendous number of jobs we can now give students that used to be on the side of the teacher's responsibility, and it's now shifting to students. Of course, what all this means, if you're a parent, and we have some parents here today, one of the issues that teachers sometimes ask is, if I don't give out the homework I used to give, for example, and homework is done in class, where we know we need to give immediate feedback, will parents go along with this kind of thinking? Which, even though it's the application of what the research says, there are certain traditions about, for example, getting problems at home that I think we're now going to have to help parents understand that the way we've always done things might not be the way we need to do things moving forward. So it comes with some bit of controversy, although there's amazing data to suggest that these ideas really, really work. And finally, I want to say something about assessment. One of the people who have influenced me the most recently is the Dean of Applied Physics at Harvard, a guy named Eric Mazur. And Dr. Mazur is pretty clear that even at Harvard, you can get high test scores without actually understanding the material you've covered. Now, if we can agree to that even at a place that is as selective as Harvard University has students with high test scores but not knowing how to apply what they've learned, then that would suggest that testing by itself is probably not the only measure of knowing whether a student has actually deeply learned knowledge. And so one of the other things you're going to see today are teachers who've sorted out that we must go beyond the assessments that we seem to be so focused on as national policy in this country, and actually have students demonstrate that they own the learning and they can actually apply the knowledge being taught in school. It's a phenomenally exciting time. I'm thrilled you've joined us today. I'm thrilled people have given up time in the audience. And without further ado, I think we should move on and take a look at one of the most exciting projects I've seen, Eric Marcos working with his students in designing tutorials in mathematics.